Okay, we are doing the number system student handout number 4. What is absolute value? All right. To start with, it asks us something simple to just mark a point at both 5 and -5 on the number line. So if you mark 5, which is right here on the positive side, and -5, which is the opposite. Okay? Something simple. Then it asks you to describe what do you notice about the difference. So one thing I know that -5 and 5, they're the opposites. Also, I noticed that they're the same distance away from 0. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left. So I'm going to write same distance from 0. Also, that they are 10 units apart altogether. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 units apart. All right. The sentence below says the absolute value of a number is the distance away from 0. All right. So let me come down a little bit so you can see the rest of the page. All right. It says this right here is red, the absolute value of -5, right? So these bars right here, that's your absolute value sign. That means absolute value. So -5 is in the middle, so that's why it says the absolute value of -5. So it says mark each point on a number line and then determine the absolute value. So remember, the absolute value of a number is the distance it is away from 0. It's really easy, okay, because it's going to be that same exact number. So let's mark -8 on the line, which is right here. A. So how far is this -8 away from 0, right? No matter negative or positive, it's always going to be that number, right? 8 away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The absolute value of -8 is 8 because it is 8 units away from 0. All right, B says -1. So let's go mark -1. And that is B. It wants to know how far is -1 away from 0. It's 1 away. It's 1 unit away. So what do you notice about the answers? Even though it's negative, it always comes out positive. This one is negative, it's always going to come out positive because you can't be negative away from negative away from 0. All right, so let's do C, which is 3. So how far is 3 away from 0? 1, 2, 3. It's always going to be that number. All right. Now, D has a fraction in it. And when we did in class yesterday, this -4 is going to fall in between -4 and -5. And halfway will be right here. So mark that D. Now, how far away is it? So if we want to jump over a hole, we would jump right back into the middle of the next number. If we were to jump right here, it would be half. So let's jump a hole. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, but we have to do a half. So it's 4.5 units away from 0. Same number, just positive. All right. And E says 6. Let's mark 6 right here. Label that E. How far away is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Same number. It's always going to be that number, but positive. Okay? So what you're going to do below is you're going to write the absolute value that describes each situation. So I'm going to do the first one with you, and then you're going to show me number 3 when we get back to class. So number 2 says New Orleans is 8 feet below sea level. You remember when we were coming up with words, below means negative, right? So it will be the absolute value of -8. Okay? The second one says, Mr. Simpson owes $563 on his credit card bill. That word owes, let me know what you think of that. All right, so when you have did that, you should have gotten the absolute value of -563. That should be the correct answer. All right, we're going to go ahead and flip to the back. Okay, and I'm going to move it up for you guys to see. All right, it says absolute values can be compared. Okay, all numbers can be compared, but absolute values can be compared too as well. So we're going to compare the absolute values. Remember what we did on the last page. All it is the same number, but it's positive. Okay, so if it's 2.5 over here, it's 2.5 away from 0. All right, so even if it says a -2.5, it's still 2.5 away from 0. 2.5 and 2.5. Is that greater than, less than, or equal to? Those two numbers are the same. Okay, next you have negative, the absolute value of -3.9. That's still going to be 3.9 away from 0, no matter if it's negative. And how about 4? All right. Is 3.9 greater than 4? Is it less than 4? Or is it equal to 4? 3.9 is less than 4. Okay. Number 6. 6 1/4 is still going to be 6 1/4 away from 0, and the absolute value of -7.8 is still going to be 7.8. Okay. Now you're looking at it. One is a fraction and one is a decimal, right? So, but you look at the whole number. 6 is bigger than 7. All right. So that means that 6 1/4 is going to be less than 7.8. So what I want you to do, I want you to pause the video and do 7, 8, and 9. And I'm going to come back and we're going to explain each answer. All right, for number 7, remember when we talked about improper fraction, that really is -4, but it's still going to be 4 away from 0. And this is going to be a positive 3.9. So it's similar to this problem right here. We already said that 4 is bigger than 3.9. All right. This one over here, this doesn't have an absolute value. So now it just says -24 and -18. Which one is closer to 0? -18 is closer to 0 on a number line. So -18 is bigger than -24. All right. Now this one has the absolute value of -24. Which is 24, and this is the absolute value of -18, which is 18, and 24 is bigger than 18. It's greater than 18. It says, what do you notice about the problems in 8 and 9? They are the same numbers, but the absolute value changes the meaning. All right, so if you look at it, they both are still negative here and there, But when you put the absolute value of it, it comes out positive because no matter if it's negative, it's still going to be 24 units away from 0. All right. Moving down to the bottom. All right. It says practice finding the absolute value by answering the questions below. All right. So the absolute value of negative 16, no matter if it's negative, how far away is it from 0? It's still 16. Okay. Now, for 13 and 14, they want to know both the opposites. So if it was negative 11 or positive 11, you would get both. So you would write negative 11 and positive 11. All right. Because if you put negative 11 where x is, you still get 11. And if you put 11 where that x is, you will still get 11. Same thing for 14. If you were to put a negative 7/8 inside the x, you would still get 7/8. And if you put a positive 7/8 in there, you'll get the same. So it says find all the numbers with the absolute value of 150. All right. So we know it could be both negative 150 and positive 150. All right. Go ahead and do number 16 and see what you get. For 16, you should have got positive 8.9. Stays the same. 17 says find the two numbers who are 25.6 units away from 0. All right, so we know that it's positive 25.6 and the negative 25.6. Very simple. All right. Now the challenge ones. All right. Now look at this one. Let me zoom in for this. All right. So you have a negative 39, but there's also a negative on the outside. So let's think about it. If I know that negative 39 is still 39 units away, since that negative is on the outside, it turns that number back negative. Okay? So think about this one. The absolute value of negative 44 is still 44, but you have to add 5 to it. 44 plus 5 is 49. And last but not least, this absolute value of 18 will be positive 18. Then you have to subtract 50 minus 18, and you should get 32. So absolute value is not hard. It's just finding the distance away from that number from 0. And it's always going to be positive unless you have a negative sign outside the absolute value. So go ahead, write 2 sentences about today's lessons of what you learned, and you can go ahead and complete homework number 4 now.